Welcome back to the draft, everybody. And I know it's a little weird. It's me and Casual taking you through it. We thought we'd use our little analytical brains, especially Casual. Mate, you've been flooring me with your knowledge recently, but I don't know why I'm surprised. You are the greatest color commentator and analyst I've ever worked with. So we can finally dive into it. It's an Ornn ban, Wukong ban right off the bat.
Yeah, so nothing particularly surprising as we started off right now. The Irelia actually been respect banned from Massive, so targeting down FTR. Did mention that FTR wasn't able to find insane leads on this champion, but he clearly did look proficient and was an issue in some of those team fights that UQ Eagles were to go even in or potentially win around that sort of third and fourth Drake. So fair enough to ban it. Taking away the Silas as well makes sense. The answer into the Jinx too. Knowing that Mitch is most likely, MWB, is most likely going to go on something that has a beautiful ult for Silas to use. So making sure they take that away from FTR. It's another one of his just staple picks. And it's just those classic mid laners that he loves. Quicksand. He loves to skirmish. He loves to fight early. And he loves to snowball with a lead. So take away two of those. And UQ Eagles top laner's favorite champion in the Ornn. Makes a lot of sense. And then really, really nice bans coming out from UQ Eagles as well. So Coach Charlie is a really hard person to ban as we see the Gragas being picked as well. Beautiful flex pick coming out of Massive as well, Quicksand. I love because they can rotate into so many different lanes. However, it may be safer to potentially rotate into the jungle because it's just a little bit uncomfy for MWB. It's kind of that pseudo tank, not particularly the role that he's been playing so far, but leaves the option for a prio bot lane right now for UQ Eagles to take, which they may
I was just thinking about it. There's the Aphelios.
It's just a matter of what they pair the Aphelios with now, right? I mean, you're a bot laner, Quicksand. What do you feel like? It's going to be Thresh. Do you feel like Thresh was their best option?
Look, I know Rakan has been just picked non-stop over and over and over again in MSI or to be paired with Aphelios or any ADC. But Thresh is the ideal pick to go with Aphelios, or one of the best to choose. And what we've been seeing in higher elo competition is Thresh being banned out or Blitzcrank being banned out to force the other being banned. Because you kind of, it seems like in higher level competition that banning one out is forcing the other to be banned, or you need one to cancel the other out. Now, we were talking a little bit backstage about Lucozade liking Varus just a little bit. I mean, he's good at all the hyperscaling carries, and Varus can be one of them, but I think this one is a bit closer to Lucozade's heart than most ADC players.
Yeah, no, I really like it. The only thing that I think will be potentially uncomfortable for Lucas was his ability to self-peel last game was the reason they were able to snowball their AD carry out of control if you were Massive, right? His ability to have so much pressure come towards him. Even we saw at the end of that play earlier in the bot lane being able to self-peel. Varus can't do a lot of that outside of his ultimate, so I feel like there'll need to be a little bit more of kind of sticking onto the ADC and playing around our star carry at the moment. Graves the answer into this bot lane that Massive have drafted for as well. I really like this. It's a stable blind because they still don't know UQ Eagles whether that Gragas is going top or if it's going jungle. The one thing they can rule out if they look at the OP.GGs of Massive is that it's not going mid. Even Lasea is a good friend of mine. I beg him to learn Gragas because it's so broken and such a good flex pick. He adamantly denies that he'll ever play it again. So it's either one of those two things. So that allows you to take the Graves. The only worry is that technically one may argue that Massive have drafted a mostly AP composition. Even with the Varus being picked up right on hit is still dishing out a lot of magic damage. And Graves usually favored in more AD centric comps because of his ability to stack up that grit and become overwhelmingly tanky while building so much damage. So that's the only worry I see about this blind. It's still really decent. But what you want to pair Graves with is prio lane. So then when we rotate ourselves to the second waves of banning, it really makes sense what UQ Eagles have actually opted for, taking away the Malphite and the Vi. So Vi being able to really quickly clear her camps and actually match the invade from Graves is really good to take away. And then Malphite, such a stable laner where the wave can almost always be even for your jungle to play around. So I like what UQ Eagles have gone for, blinding the Ahri as well, because now we know, yes, that Gragas technically isn't going. Lasea has opted for a counter pick here. I'm not too sure what he'll go for. My mind tells me Cassiopeia. It is his stable pick though, Quicksand. So there's such a world where it's like, well, do I pick one of my best champions? What if I don't perform on it? Maybe he can get inside his own head, but God, I'd be so excited if he does actually end up going for the Cass.
I'd love to. And seeing the Ahri being locked in kind of writes off most control mages. And Veigar, he toes the line with his cage. It's such a useful item of utility, but it's also the most important thing that he has in his arsenal to get away from that Ahri. Her mobility, her ability to avoid ganks, to take advantage of your own team's ganks, is unreal. Veigar is a really awesome addition to this competition, and we're about to see our top laner or our jungler being locked in here. It's going to be Viego locked in. That's a Gragas top lane. And Kennen, oh my god.
So Kennen the answer into Gragas makes a lot of sense. Forces Gragas on his most unlikely sort of rune to take, which is that Comet. It's not what he loves. He'd prefer the first strike or the phase rush, but it's pretty mandatory. It's a similar thing, right? So you're opting for a ranged matchup into the Gragas, allowing yourself to actually compete with the wave clear that Gragas actually has. I really like what Massive have gone for, but particularly I want to talk about UQ Eagles because we asked from them to draft something just a bit more similar and a bit more simple to what Massive went for, and that's very much what they've done here. So they've gone prio lanes with the Ahri and the Gnar. Gnar definitely being able to push Gragas in early, ideally, depending on how that 1v1 goes, allowing Graves to invade and put pressure on CTB. Because we saw last game that if he was able to full clear and get himself to those sort of mid-game skirmishes, he was carrying those fights. Like his ability to pressure and actually scare opponents off returning into a fight after the disengagement happened because of a worry that he may get a reset. We saw at the Baron Pit, once he did get those resets, it was just a clean sweep. So UQ Eagles have to try and match that, and the best way to do that is by playing aggressive early, and there's very few junglers that can be as aggressive as a Graves in the early game. So I like what UQ have gone for there. My only worry is the mid lane now for Massive. Lasay is on. I mentioned Cassiopeia is very comfortable for him quick. He's an absolutely amazing Veigar player as well. Understands every single matchup, in my opinion, and Ahri is kind of that classical sort of counter that people use the Veigar for to actually shut her down.
Well,
because
Casual, I'm going to have to take it away from you quickly and throw me a prediction on which side we're thinking we're about to right now. Quick, rapid fire. Go, go.
I'm doing it. I'm doing Magneto moment. I'm going to say Massive take out the 2-0 here. I'm feeling really confident in my boys from my home turf, and I think they're actually going to take out this game, though it will be close.
Okay, I'm feeling UQ's draft a little more. Feels a bit more meta, but that's all the time we have. We quickly, we got to throw it to the casters. Go, go, go!
Go, go!
Like, are we actually throwing to the casters?
Whoa,
I don't have
okay.
my jacket on. Wasn't
All right.
expecting this one.
All right, it's wild. We're here. Hey, we made it. Does this mean that, what are we going to do for spectator delay? Because we are very close to getting out of the spectator delay. Are we here?
Oh, look, I think we're getting pretty close. I think we got a minute or two. So, look, if I'm being perfectly honest, we might need to jump to an intermission so we can sort of break down our own kind of thing going on. I don't even have my jacket on, man. Like, they just told me out of nowhere. What's going on? That's okay. We're going to go to intermission, guys, as we're going to get prepped for the second game. Actually, before we do that, I love that the little break. Who do you think is going to take this one home real quick, Weapon?
I think it has to be Massive.
You think Massive? I was totally agreeing. I think their comp just looks real strong. I'm looking forward to this Thresh though, but I'm still seeing a Blitzcrank Varus, and that scares the hell out of me. And a Veigar 1 point click that's just over on for that Ophelia. So let's see. We're gonna go to an intermission, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, you get to see me jump up in front of the camera maybe less than one time in my entire life. So we are back for a second game. Mammoth versus UQ. It's going to be a big one, Weapon.
Yeah, Massive. Looking to... You got me too. Massive. Looking to go 2-0 in this series. Just get themselves started off at a great pace in this Mcom training grounds. I can't even speak English. Imagine if I was trying to do it for a job. And UQ looking to recover from that first game loss with a much more stable looking draft. Like Casual set up during the draft panel, it's going to be a Gnar in the top side once again, but this time you've got the Ahri for yourself, and you've got a Graves to kind of be that front line as well. So you can kind of play a bit more front to back, or have the Gnar coming from the angles. It's you've got FTR having the ability to play behind a front line rather than being a Aurelia. Diving in and trying to find the kills on the back line. But like they said in the draft panel, I really love this setup from Massive. Before we cut away, you asked me who I was backing in terms of draft, and Massive just have all the tools to deal with everything that's being thrown at them. The Veigar, the classic Ahri counter, able to put her in the baby cage and lock her down. Gragas is going to be a tanky, engaging sort of front line as this game goes on. And the Varus, of course, able to play at a greater range than the Aphelios or the Thresh could ever bring to bear. And, of course, Blitzcrank to look for those picks from range. So it's all just there for Massive. And it feels like, once again, UQ have kind of created themselves a bit of a hill to climb in draft.
Look, you know my old saying here, Weapon. For those of you who've been watching me in Weapon Cast for a long time, you know I like to talk about circles. Circles, circles, circles. It's all about rings, ladies and gentlemen.
Venn diagrams of murder.
Look, and that's all it is. You got a Vagar Cage. That's a circle. You got a Gragas Cast. Well, that's a circle. You got so many circles, and I love that we're going to be seeing a lot of lockdown. You got a lot of counterplay you can do too. Gragas can throw out a cast into a Vagar Cage. Just imagine what sort of chain reactions you can get from this blue side. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Massive really stepping up in this game and doing some good work. I'm expecting a 2-0 series, as you're seeing Gragas already putting in the hard work in the top side. But
it is going to be the Gragas with the Comet as well, set up by Mr. Casual himself. So the man knows what he's talking about. Big fan, actually. He knows this matchup, of course, top lane player himself. And this is what you have to do against the Gnar, where you do need to try and equalize that kind of poke that is going to come out from the Gnar. But what I want to call your attention to is down towards his bot side, CTP has gone for the invade, and Kane is looking to respond.
But look, do they land the hook? As they do land it. Kane doing a very good job. Ignite has gone down. Resurgence is here, looking to lock it a little bit more, but First Blood heads over to the Thresh, and they're still looking for a little bit more, as there's the flash coming out.
Forward.
How aggressive are they going as the flash comes out of Resurgence too? Lucasade has to flash that too, as the charm does just miss, and it looks like he does get picked up too, as Soy looking very strong. Wait, there's the flash hook, but the instant cleanse gets him out of dodge.
Lucasade with the fast fingers, Captain Jacking that that's not the term we're going to go with. Captain Jack cleansing the hook, but really nicely played there with the collapse from the UQ Eagles. They saw the invade from CTV. It looks like it was caught by CM Stet, and there was priority being taken by the bot lane with Lucasade and Resurgence sending waves in, but the response came in a little bit faster from Sue and Kane as they were able to find enough space to get the rotation in. Thresh lands the hook, and then CTV is kind of shut down on a play that it felt like it needed to go well. They needed to get that collapse onto the Graves and kind of set this guy behind so he can't become that powerhouse in the mid to late game. But CM Stet set up once again to be the carry of this game from the jungle role alongside FTR. Is looking to be a formidable force in this game and proceeding largely, I'm not going to use the word that I was going to say, largely unharassed.
Unharassed.
Now, unharassed. We'll go with that one.
Word you're going to use.
No, it's not a good one.
It's not a good one.
Yeah, it's one of those words that I won't say it. It's like
we're just not going to say it then.
One of those words like you can say, but it sounds really awkward in like a modern context, and that's where I'll leave it.
How old are you? From the 1912s?
I am literally from the 1800s, dude. I don't even know what's going on right now. What is this witchery?
Mate, how are there pictures on my screen?
The pictures are moving.
Wait, how are we talking to each other when you're not in front of me? What's going on?
My God.
Wait, when do they invent phones?
Telepathy.
Telepathy?
What is this telepathy?
Well, let's focus back on League of Legends.
Casters, please talk about League of Legends.
Full divergence back into something. I don't know how far we just regressed, but it seems to be a long way. CTP hovering bot side very heavily as they X-Flash forward. They could be looking to land the hook here as they could be looking for Super, but they do just pick up the Thresh. There's the stun coming down too, but Kane looking pretty low. They might need to just lock this one down. One more hit should do it. They picks up the kill.
Yeah, really nicely played there by Resurgence. Goes for the Hex Flash in, and then just stays on Kane, waiting for him to throw that hook, knowing that he could use the Q to cancel the Thresh Q and secure the kill for his team. And Lucasade comes in on the back end. Of course, CTB gets his hand on the ball with the stun as well. So a successful play is found in response on the bot side after a bit of a disaster in the enemy jungle, and they are able to answer back. And HG Times has ultimate here. Could look for a bit of an all-in.
He's got the barrel down, does try to knock him back. He's doing a lot of damage here, Weapon. But is it going to be enough? It is a Gragas. He's got some potions. He's going to be fine.
Got some potions, got the passive. He's probably going to be fine to just farm that wave up under tower and then reset. Doesn't need the teleport, but the wave will bounce away. But this is a lot of pressure bot side. CM Stat has helped this wave go in, so it looks like it might be a bit of a dragon play here, as the bot lane does get relegated catching that wave. But CTB in position. Could look for the response, but he's just going to reset, so the cord pulled.
Oh, look. The bot lane you're versing is already is just a little bit behind, but the gold lead is still there on this Aphelios, so you've got to be really careful with that. You also have the Gravitas there too, so he's going to have an instant lockdown, along with a Thresh hook. You've got the Signs coming in, but
that's right. Yeah, they're just going to secure that one. Again, it's an Ocean Drake surrendered. Doesn't really mean a lot on its own. But what does mean a lot is this potential invade, as Resurgence is in position.
But as they do look to secure this one, CTB is here. Lucas is also here, but that's 3 members deep. There's the cage. It does lock down one. Good hook comes in too. As a beautiful Ultra Primordial Force just doing its job.
And again, it's just coordinated by Massive. It's that one bit of crowd control that lands, that sets up the rest, and then one member is locked down for the kill in this case. CM Step, who was kind of off the races for himself, had a couple of successful plays on the bot side, and this time is once again shut down by the coordinated efforts of Massive. CTB, lurking on FDR.
Caught in the cage, not where you want to be, but does
land.
He
lands it.
There. Does get hit with a charm though as well. Walks out a little bit hurt.
Yeah, just going to be shadowing Lasser here. It looks like helping him get that wave shoved out so he can get a bit of a reset. Overall, despite a couple of kind of early game blunders here by Massive, it feels like they're still largely in control, still finding the counter punches that they need to keep this game where they need to be. And it's another composition that really does feel better the longer the game goes on. And you feel like, once again, UQ have to be a little bit more proactive than their opponents here.
Look, you have a lot more movement, I feel like, on the side of UQ. Like, you got an Ari with that Spirit Rush, you got a Graves who's got a couple dashes there, Nah with his jumps. Like, you can't ignore that, especially if Aphelios does decide to go a Gale Force. So, that movement can't be overstepped, because Blitzcrank's going to have such a harder time hitting these hooks. A barrel, explosive cast coming out of Gragas, again, harder to hit. It's just so much mobility can cause a lot of problems. But I want to see how Massive decides to play around that and try and bait a lot of these things out.
Yeah, for sure, but they do have the tools to lock it down. You know, we saw it in the last game, another grab.
Yeah, it looks like the Lantern does go out. That's a nice little thing about Thresh into it, but
it's an R angle.
For sure, but that's a big dash. But look, the explosive cast takes the back though. That's a beautiful cage coming out too. As Kane does actually pick up the Blitzcrank, it's not who you want to be on. There's the flash forward, does pick up the Gragas. Now it's a little bit more, but Primordial Burst doesn't do enough damage. Lucas does throw down the chains. He's going for a bit of a fight. And then you can go a little bit more into those there, but he's just chilling. He's cruising. Lucas is left alone. 1v4, 2v4 in fact, but they're still trying to do as much as they can. Takes time, does get blasted a little bit. And they turn that fight, and look where Aphelios is.
Aphelios just farming up plates with that white gun while Lucozade comes to respond to the play. Didn't quite find the angle on the ultimate that he would have wanted to set up the multi-kills with the WQ to get the execute. So unfortunately not quite going to go the way of Massive in this particular exchange, and they even have to send MWB down towards the bot side to respond to the Aphelios to make sure he doesn't get completely out of control. But Lasser's in, Baby Cage lands.
Enough does get hit by the charm. Resurgence going forward here. Does land the hook on the Ari instead. He's keeping it over, but the Lantern does its job, gets it out of dodge as the flash forward from the does land that Q. And that's literally every Ari's worst nightmare.
Yeah, flash forward by Lasser, just lands that Q and cleans up the kill. So again, counterpunches are being found. They do get the Herald on the Graves, so going to be able to use that to farm up a little bit of extra gold, maybe potentially down towards that bot side, get the Aphelios completely fed out of his mind, as Soy was kind of quiet last game. This time on the Aphelios could be set up for success, and he's looking for something cheeky here.
Oh, look, he's
just going to push.
Yeah, he's got nothing to worry about, man. Aphelios late game is what you worry about. Right now he's just farming up, he's just enjoying life.
Yeah, he's even got the cull as well, so once that pops, he's going to have a massive injection of gold, which is going to help him get towards that mythic spike, and that 3-item Aphelios that is going to be such a terror in the late game. Probably going to see that bloodthirst build up for him, which is just going to make him so tanky when it comes to things like the Gragas and the Viego diving on top of you. If you don't confirm that kill and he just turns on you, the Aphelios with the red gun just heals to full in like 2 autos.
Yeah, ridiculous. So that's why I'm a little bit worried about this Varus pick, though. Like, Varus Blitzcrank, we know, is such an impactful lane, but Aphelios hasn't even been in a fight, and look at the lead that he's picked up for himself. That is a serious amount of gold, as he is roughly 900 gold, close-ish, ahead.
Yeah, completely absurd. He's going to be able to go back and get probably most of that mythic under his belt. Actually, it looks like a... just misses. Whew.
But it does give them a chance and a window to look at the drag. Jamming the spot save, but Aphelios coming back to some core items. Not something you want to mess with right now, weapon.
Yeah, it looks like no confirmation of where the Graves could be on the map. He hasn't shown himself for a little bit. Means that they're going to be a little bit gun-shy here, but gathering around the bot side. Meanwhile, Graves cast lands on top. Where are we fighting?
Look, I don't know, man. It's split so hard as this Nah is about to go Mega, but he does not have TP to come down to this fight. Neither does Gragas. But we're looking at a dragon fight overall. Blitzcrank wants to land that hook, but a lantern can easily be thrown. Resurgence is here, definitely looking. And Veigar is also here, ready for a cage, but they're just going to give it over. But there's the flash, there's the hook, there's the flay. Is it any more? As Steph actually picks up the kill, and that's a free drag.
Yeah, it was just never going to be a fight you wanted to go for from the Massive side. No ult on Lucozade meant that no ability to come in from a flank and look for any sort of angles. The Blitzcrank grab was a last-ditch effort, but unfortunately was read by Kane, who came in with the hook to cancel it. So the support grab wars kind of continue, and this time Kane comes out on top, and they're even going to drop this Herald. So Soy is getting funneled gold. This Aphelios is going to be massive. I think that's going to be Mythic completion for him.
Dude, this just feels like a totally different team on the UQ side. Like, look how fast they are pressuring this game as Lacia wants to get that Primordial Burst. And look, they might even be able to get a second tier tower off that Rift push. But absolutely phenomenal gameplay from UQ, really setting the tempo early.
Ooh, but they might have overstayed here as CTB is in position. Resurgence has the hook.
Yeah, the hook, but it's going to be enough. There's the chains going down. Is it going to be enough to do the damage, though? Yes, Lucozade does pick it up.
City.
That's the carry. Is going to be enough, though. They're trying to get a little bit more. But Lucosade's all alone. The box does go down too. Auto attacks left, right, and center. You just can't sidestep those, mate. And it's beautiful as Lacia comes to join the fight. And an excellent comeback coming out on the side of Massive.
Yeah, just a little bit too far by the UQ side. They get chased down. Had Lacer coming in, so I think they knew they had to turn and fight, but unfortunately, it's just the hook from Resurgence time and time again that keeps finding the target. This time it is Soy, that key Aphelios target where he lands the hook and they just lock him down, get the kills, and CTB even survives the fight thanks to the Aphelios lifesteal. So again, it's massive. They're finding the counterpunches as they need to buy time for their carries to come online, for this Veigar to get absolutely massive, where he can just press the button to delete everyone on UQ, and there's no tank here.
Yeah.
So whoever he presses R on probably just dies.
Yeah. No, 100%. And Aphelios, we're getting some items on the board, but is it really going to be enough when you see Veigar 3-0, Varus 3-0, both got items. They're both just chilling at the moment. Red buff also on Lucozade. This man is a force, and you've got to be a little bit scared of that.
Yeah, 3-0-2 Varus at this stage of the game. Definitely a little bit stronger than the Aphelios with the amount of poke that he brings. And who got that? Oh, I see you, CTV. Nice one. Yeah. But yeah, two items, definitely where the Varus starts to feel really good. I think the 3 items is where the Aphelios really will start to take over. So a little bit of time. And again, that's kind of time that you're giving to the Veigar to scale up. Time that you're giving to the Gragas, who's only just finished his role. A little bit late on that one. Actually, we were just debating this one the last time we cast, what the timing is now. I think that's probably fine. But Gragas, he is going to get bigger and bigger as this game goes on as well. So it's time that you need to be proactive with, even if you are waiting for an Aphelios to get to his item spikes.
No, I totally agree. I think you're looking at a couple good items being picked up over the board. Like I said, I did mention that Gale Force on Aphelios, which is pretty staple into a team comp that you're seeing on the side of Massive. I like the Triforce again on this Nah. He obviously wants to be doing as much damage as possible in these fights. A lot of good fuel. The Graves, though, picking up that Dirk is really good. Looking to get some explosive damage coming off. But I want to see a little bit more from these guys. The game has slowed down. CTB now trying to run the pace of the game, but they are just behind in gold, 28k to 25k.
Yeah, a little bit of a gold lead going over to the UQ side. Have to see what they do with it. So they are just looking to push in mid. Aphelios is decently strong at this point of the game, so as long as he has the support, they can continue to go front in gold. Charm is going to land.
Oh, but the Lucozade back into the chain. Absolutely nothing you can do into that one. Big Gragas cast does go down. Has to burn the flash. And absolutely smashing gameplay coming out of Massive there.
Yeah, and it's just the coordination just isn't quite there. You don't have everyone in position to follow up, and Massive have the people to absorb the pressure. Yeah, Lacer is there, CTB is on the flank, and they come in as the aggression comes in, and they just cut it off at the source, and now it's them pushing the pace and landing the hooks.
But there's a big Nah coming into the back line, doing so much. Everyone starts to go on. Mcom kills this Nah, just gives him his mega form as they do. I got Gragas, and there comes Sweet, going for a lot more.
Charm lands.
3-man cage on the Veigar. They do pick up Varus. Aphelios now now properly online with those items, and they're just going to take this mid tower.
And this time it's Massive who over-pushed and overplayed their hand as they try and position forward, and the Gnar comes in, HD times, not even a teleport, just walks straight at the enemy team, gets the hop in, gets the Gnar into the wall, and then sets up the rest of the fight as the charms land from FTR off the teleport, and he's able to pick up the play, and they're going to turn this into a third Drake of the game. So threat is mounting.
Look, and you just can't let that happen at this point in the game, honestly. With the Veigar wanting to get into this late game, same with Baron. You can't give over these crucial dragons now. You have to be present for these fights. Their jungle is topside. Did he take Rift Herald? He took Rift Herald. That's fine. So he got a Rift Herald as well. Now he can come down. They just have to play it slow.
Okay. All right, everyone's not quite on the same page, but we're getting there. The Graves is going to be here in a moment, and this does give you time to maybe line up hook from Resurgence, NWB in the pit, so could look for one of those alt angles.
Big thing here is to wait out that Mega Gnar. He is now small Gnar too, so he's going to try and stack that up. But Gragas is in the pit. He's doing it. He's now bailed from the pit. And now it seems to be a pretty slow team fight. It looks like they are just going to try and win this one down, trying to rush it down now too. And say it does drop the cage, does land one, but there goes the hook coming out from the Thresh. But they're going for even more as the box does come down too. They're still on this dragon. Look at the fight. FTR picks up the stay, and there's so much damage coming in. Look at the surges off to the side. Absolutely no help with the split crank. The robot can't get in. Also here as they do already pick up the dragon, 3 dragons deep. There is the soul for Red, and they clean up this fight as Red Team secured, and they're walking over trying to pick up even more. But there's still a fight going on, as I do need to keep going into the CTB, very strong. And Stet just wants to get on Resurgence here.
It's not quite going to get it. No ultimate to speak of to clean up that kill, but really nicely navigated by UQ. They find the fight that they want, and it's just by standing back and letting the opponents come to them. Look at the composition. Look at the tools that they have on the Massive side. The only thing that you can use proactively is really the Blitzcrank ultimate. The Varasalt, probably best used to peel for yourself. Lascez, Baby Cage, best used to peel or try and look for some sort of catch, but it has to be set up by secondary CC generally. And CTB is really just there to clean up kills. The Gragas ultimates, maybe you could argue if you find the angle, but that's so dependent on you finding that flank. So if you're just kind of staring at each other, just waiting for someone to make a move, it feels like the team with a Gnar, team with a Thresh or an Ahri is going to come off a little bit better there, and that's exactly what we saw in that last fight. So Massive have to reassess. They have to maybe find some pockets of vision to play around to get some flanks in to try and force the opponents to be a little bit more respectful. Right now, they're just looking for a pick. Nice one. Straight
into the cage. Surge is picking it up, and not the champion you wanted on, but that's exactly what we want to start seeing. These beautiful little picks popping out. Let's say it put down a beautiful cage. Nicely done.
Yeah, really nice. You do have those pick tools available to you, so good recovery by Massive off the back of that fight. And they're going to give up a blue buff, but having just got a pick, I think you'll be okay with that. Right now, you're just looking to reset your waves and make sure the opponent isn't threatening Baron, which looks to be the next objective on the table, as the vision setup certainly betrays a bit of a lean towards the Baron side. But a single pink board snuck into that pink pixel brush means that you do at least have some idea of when it's going to be taken. Seems set down towards the bot side, maybe looking like they're just actually going for a bit of a press down towards the bot.
We did just notice that Lucas had used the chain, so ultimate is down. So now is a good time for UQ to look for a fight. With Varus no longer got that sort of safety net, you might even say. But really, no objective but Baron up on the board as they drop Rift Herald down mid.
Yeah, Herald down mid, and looks like you're going to get that charge off at least. Just to see if any response comes in, as your Gragas is going down towards the bot side to answer the Gnar, and he's really the only tool that you could think of to use to get the flank if they are going to go for this deep sort of push. So that just signals a bit of a concession there for Massive. I think they're probably waiting for the Baron or the Dragon fight for their next opportunity to try and find something back for themselves. As top lane tier 1 rather, also going to be picked up. So it's just going around the map, picking up standing gold for UQ.
Oh look, the name of the game right now is how much of a lead can they get to really secure this Baron and really clean up the end here. A solid 7k gold lead right now. What can you really do as Massive right now in this game when they feel like they're just getting no chance to walk through into their jungle at all?
Yeah, I was going to say you need to look for picks, look for isolated members, but with the group around the Baron happening, it looks like the next thing is going to be this Baron up fight, and it's this Baron fight, and that's where you start to get a little bit nervous here if you're MWB. Maybe look for some sort of some sort of play, panic, and pull the trigger, but this time he does get out of dodge with his life. And you can see full control past that river line is going to be afforded to UQ. So at this point, if you're on Massive, you start to get a little bit nervous. You can see they're poking their heads in. No one's on the Baron, but that's what's happening in their heads right now. They don't know who's hitting the Baron or what's going on.
My big question for your weapon right now is, do you forfeit the soul, the Dragon Soul, for Baron at this point in the game? You know you're that far behind. Is that a worthwhile trade?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the other thing, right? If they go for Baron, you can maybe take the Dragon, or if one team goes to Baron, they can force them to take the Dragon, but it doesn't feel like a trade you can afford to make at this point as Massive, being so far behind, especially either of those buffs that you give up is going to be the end of the game, especially I think the Dragon. I think at this point as UQ, you're probably a little bit more happy to give that up, but it's definitely rock in a hard place, and I think it has to come off with picks, and it has to come off with priority. So they've done a good job of securing vision into the Baron River, or Baronside River, and this Dragon spawning, 19 seconds. If you can get into a flank or get a decent grab to start the fight, it could be a one fight, but it's a hard ask.
But the Dragon is spawning less than a minute to go on that. In fact, it's about 10 seconds. Age cooldown is already happening as the hook does land. That's not what you want to be. As the box does go down, and the box does land too. It's a fight all over the map. Moonlight Digital does go down. It doesn't even do any damage from the rest of it. As CTV does pick up the Nada. That's their front line now. Getting the ultra off. CTV's looking so low, trying to run away. Look at the damage coming out as FTR is dashing forward. Goes back.
Can't do it.
Just tries instantly. Double kills his Ari. That's the soul, and that could be Baron if they're lucky.
Yeah, they just can't do it. They can't find the angles into the fight. In that particular fight, it was just MWB standing there waiting for an opportunity to be given to him, and he doesn't have the angle to flash in or find the body slam in the cast. So there is no setup for the fight, and the proactive comp goes forward with the Gnar, with the Ari, and they find the CC, find the lockdown. The baby cage just isn't enough. What is the Vega's E's actual name? Event Horizon, right? Yeah, thank you. I only know it as baby cage. The Event Horizon isn't quite enough, and they just don't quite have the tools to peel for themselves, and they just get ran down. And when your frontline is a Gragas, yes, he's got the Rod of Ages stacked up. He isn't the kind of tank that can just stand there and take the abuse in a front-to-back team fight. It has to be proactive, and you're just not finding those sorts of angles if you are on Massive.
And you just don't see the damage output coming from this Varus. Like, you're seeing a lot coming from this Veigar, who's definitely picked up his Cosmic Drive, but even looking for this fight, that Hex Drag is just going to do so much. This does come down, kicking up and behind. The explosive barrel does hit. There's TV coming out so from Ari. She wants in as Steph is just an absolute beast. 4, 2, and 10. He's working this map like he was born to it.
Yeah, that was not the tug you wanted to hook with the Graves going in. You basically just gave him the invite to the party and he just shot you in the face, which is a terrible thing for a party guest to do. Nars in.
No, Mega Mouse straight into the back line underneath this tower. He's taking it all up. Moonlight Vision on top of it. CTV does pick that one up as trying to check out away, but no, can't do it. And they're just chasing this Dragus under tower. Double kill heading over to this Aphelios. And what can you do? 7, 1, and 7. There's no way to this back line, and it just looks like it's going to be a GG heading over to UQ.
Yeah, huge lead here for UQ. Took about 12,000 gold here and rising as the inhibitors go down. No ability to look for any sort of pick or any sort of counterplay here. Grab's not going to land. And you're really just grasping at straws here on Massive as they're just going to reset, look for another wave of minions to push in and look to stomp this one down and make this a 1-1.
The terrifying thing here is, though, with those tunnels, you can get back to lane and maintain your Baron for a little bit longer. Like, you can just head to bot side. There's another tunnel there. Both waves are pushed in mid and bot, so they can just take this. They've got no fear of that. There might be vision, but they just clear it out anyway.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't even think if you land the hook on the Aphelios that it's really going to matter, because there's enough people to pick up the slack if the Aphelios does go down, and you may not even get the kill with the amount of damage that you're lacking, so Kane's going to get hooked.
Look, is it going to be enough to kill this Kane, though? He's pretty tanky at this point. Barely 1/4 of his health gone with a big Baron buff minion wave in tow. There's a good cage, though. Straight on, takes the barrel, but it's just enough lockdown there. But look, MWB shredded, annihilated. There's just no hope of coming back. Chains of corruption do land, but there's just nothing you can do here with it.
Yeah, it's just a foregone conclusion at this point. Looks like a victory match here for UQ as they look to tie up this series.
Look, they want to push a little bit further. They got a big wave pushing in topside, but they could just play it slower, look to stay down. Ooh. But they could actually be leading. Okay.
All right. They're gonna show. I think it may be they're looking to set up some sort of trap as they actually have hung around. Things are going down, but they are going to clear out all of the vision in the jungle. Look to take a couple of camps on the way out and really just make sure that they're generating as much of a lead as possible as they're setting up for this midway push. This could be the final moment of the game. Defense has to come in. Flanks has to come in. It has to be a big play from MWB, or they just lose by default here.
Yeah, there goes the baby cage, as you like to call it. They'll go down, but it's a nah. He's about to get mega, but you got to kill him before that even happens. But there's the stop watch. Is it going to be enough? As he does just get hooked back in. Double kill going over to this Graves. It is a grave situation, if you ask me. Kane survives as he just takes one final hit. That's nothing to get it taken. But no, they take the final inhib. They've got the final towers to take. The cage, the Nexus looks to be theirs. It's going to be a big one back too, as looks like Steph is still going. Takes a couple of counters, but his healing is just ridiculous when he's got that bloodthirster. There's the flash forward, flash coming across the Slayer. This is just ego at its finest, and they're looking to end this one out. Look at Swing just absolutely annihilates. There is no hope, there is no God, as he just says good night, Irene, and they get the GG, taking us to a game 3.
Really clean stuff by UQ. They bounced back after a game 1, which looked a little bit rough down the stretch, but they are able to just rally around their carries and find the kills, which translates into this massive Aphelios. And really, I think everyone kind of pulled their weight here. I think big shout out to HG Times, who really carried those fights, find the angles on the Nard just going forward. And I think as much as I want to praise UQ, I have to kind of call out the decision making here from Massive, particularly from MWB, who was kind of invisible in most of those fights because he was just standing there kind of trying to figure out what he was meant to be doing on the Gragas, not really creating any threat in the backline, and he just wasn't able to make anything happen with this champion.
I think that's the big thing with Gragas, right? Is he's either so impactful on the game that you just like say we got to ban it next game, or he's just not, and he just can't get in. He can't get that engage. You have a Thresh there, even if he wants to try and get in, he's just gonna flay you back out.
Exactly.
Like, so hard. It's such a maneuver that you need to do. The flanks need to be perfect. There needs to be the perfect vision, and he was just denied that. So really big shout out to the Thresh as well. Big shout out to the Aries. I feel like Ari is such a like peak pick that you need because of what her kit does. But at the same time, you can't ignore. So just 9, 1, and 10, 22k damage.
Massive.
So big that game. So I love that. I
didn't
love
even build the Bloodthirster, by the way.
He was building it though.
Didn't need it.
He was looking to build it, but he didn't need it.
Didn't need it. He just got there without it. He was just hitting frontline the whole time. Massive performance, and I think Massive just. I did it to myself. Massive, the team, looking a little bit flustered there. So we'll have to see how they bounce back in game 2. I think maybe look for a bit more of a straightforward front to back team comp that is easier to execute, because this one required a few moving parts. And I called out MWB. I don't want to like make it sound like I'm flaming the guy. Getting onto the flanks and making the plays that you needed to required a lot of pieces and a lot of things to lead up to that point. You needed priority in lanes you weren't getting, and that was the issue. So they need something that can get that priority, get that ability to set up the plays, and make it happen for themselves. And that's hopefully what we see in game 3.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are going to chuck this over to the analyst desk. Quicksand Casual, take it away from us, guys. Tell us about that game.
Look, oh my god, I gotta say, seeing that Varus pick playing up against the Aphelios, that's where my eyes were pointed to the whole game. And seeing Varus get ahead, I think it was 4-0 at one point in the game, and it ended at 4-4. And that's kind of why we're seeing Aphelios be picked more and more, is even though there was a big team decision-making gap that was just discussed earlier, Aphelios is such a strong champion, man, with all his different guns. What you were saying to me earlier, Casual, his red, bro, he does not stop healing with his new gun. I feel like that's where my eyes were pointed. I think Ari performed really well, but there were so many points where the game tossed and turned, and I think there was one point where they were diving under the top tier 2, where I think we saw Massive get dived at like 30 minutes into the game by 5 members of the enemy team and kind of get wiped out. At what point do you think, Casual, that this game kind of spun out of control into the favor of UQ?
I'm muted. Hello, I'm back. What I was saying, what I will continue to say and go back in time, and I want to keep going back in time because you mentioned 35 minutes into the game they were able to make that dive, but I feel like that's just a given when you're that far ahead. I actually want to go right back to very, very early on in that game with that invade that Massive went for at Graves' blue buff. It was around level 3 where it just went so poorly. They didn't understand that even though they had bot priority with their push with the Varus Blitzcrank, able to get that done because Blitzcrank is that natural counter to the Thresh, makes the Aphelios Thresh lane just that little bit less scary, even though Aphelios has that extra rage level 1. They had the bot push, but that means that Kane can actually move himself over on this Thresh and guarantee himself a little bit more added pressure for Graves to go in. So they expected that with Charlie and the Viego walking into the blue buff that it was just a free fight. Numbers advantage quickly turned to a disadvantage, a couple kills over to UQ, and they were able to just snowball from there. And what I mean by that is, yes, one play in isolation early is fantastic. It doesn't guarantee your early game. What does is really strong solo lane performances, and that's exactly what UQ Eagles were able to rely on here, particularly on that Gnar. I mean, our beautiful casters pointed it out earlier that particularly HD Types was absolutely proficient on this Gnar. Not only in team fights was he carried and been so extroverted in how he wanted to actually CC, layer opponents, and actually lay down a heck of a bunch of damage for what is a pseudo tank. FTR was incredibly strong. We saw some really good points from the Veigar, from Lasea early game, getting himself a couple kills, allowing himself to rotate himself into the mid game with some decent priority, but he was just all over the shop. You'd think that with the event horizon, Ari couldn't make that many plays and FTR would be limited in how he was able to make engages, but this wasn't the case. I mean, charms were landing all over the shop, and so I feel like really it was that invade that things just went from bad to worse because Massive kept making plays to push forward. But that's not the comp that they actually opted for, Quicksand. They drafted things like a Varus that actually want to be pushed into Gragas, where people use their mobility and then you catch them out with the body slam and knock them back into your team. But Massive just kept making play after play where they didn't need to. UQ Eagles were able to capitalize on that. And even though their macro was shaky at times, they kind of destabilized their lead by just pushing waves and not doing much when they could have kept pressing that advantage. What they guaranteed themselves in the early game stabilized the late game, and those late team, like those team fights that we saw at the end that looked so one-sided, really come off the back of UQ Eagles finally playing for their star jungler in CM Stat, who, by the way, I am so excited to see what he pulls out for Game 3. He's already done 2 unique champions so far, right? So he's gone for the Graves in this game, and then he went for, what did he play in Game 1, Quicksand? I forget. What was it?
Pardon, who was this? This was
CM Stat, their jungler. The one we thought was
Viego.
Viego. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's 2 unique champions, but it's so clear that there's so many different options for him because he wants to play that carry style and he wants to push forward his clear jungle macro knowledge and allow himself to guarantee easy leads for his laners that then boost him into being able to invade. We saw that game that CTB was under a lot more pressure than he was in Game 1. Not even able to walk into his jungle at points and then getting picked off and kind of feeling forced to make something of it where there really wasn't anything there. So anyway, I mean, that's all you can really wrap up from this game.